The wedding dress hung like a ghost in a corner, a silent taunt to everything Boone Carter thought he knew about his future. At 22, his life was already being bartered to settle his father's debts. This wasn't just any arrangement. Sterling Rhodes, the man who owned half the territory, had made the terms clear: marry the widow Cora Maddox, 30 years his senior, or lose the ranch that had been in his family for 3 generations. Boone stood at the window of the small church, watching dust devils swirl across the barren landscape. His hands shook as he adjusted the collar of his only decent shirt. The whispers of the townsfolk stung. Some called him desperate, others pathetic, joking he'd traded a wife for a mother. None of them felt the weight crushing his chest. His father's failed cattle drive had gambled away their legacy, leaving debts that would take decades to clear. Sterling Rhodes collected what he was owed with ruthless precision, and when he proposed this marriage, Boone wanted to smash his smug face. Instead, he'd nodded like a coward. The church door creaked. Boone turned, expecting the preacher or a few reluctant guests. Instead, Cora Maddox walked down the aisle, her presence commanding despite the simplicity of her black dress. She wasn't the frail old woman he'd pictured. Her graying hair was pulled back tightly, but her green eyes burned with a fire that made him step back. She stopped 3 feet away, studying him with an intensity that made him want to hide. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she said, her voice steady. "Wouldn't you?" Boone replied, his throat tight. A faint smile touched her lips. "What we want and what we need are often 2 different things." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "I know what they're saying about us. I know what you think of me, but you don't know me, boy. And I suspect there's more to you than meets the eye." The preacher cleared his throat at the altar, Bible open. Sterling Rhodes sat in the front pew, his smug satisfaction palpable. Boone felt trapped, caught between a ruined past and an uncertain future, with this strange woman as either his ally or his enemy. As Cora took his arm to lead him to the altar, he noticed her hands trembled as much as his. The ceremony lasted 7 minutes, 7 minutes to bind 2 strangers in a deal that pleased everyone but them. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Boone felt like he was drowning in shallow water. Cora's lips barely grazed his cheek in their awkward kiss, but he caught a whiff of lavender soap and something that reminded him of his mother's garden before the drought killed it. Sterling approached them after, his smile cold as a winter wind. "Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. I trust married life will suit you." He turned to Boone, contempt barely veiled. "The deed transfer happens tomorrow. Your debt's settled, but cross me, and I'll call in every other loan your family owes." Boone's jaw tightened. "I gave my word." "Words are cheap, boy. Actions prove character." Sterling tipped his hat to Cora and left. In the empty church, silence stretched between Boone and Cora like a chasm. Outside, wind rattled the windows, dust seeping through the cracks. "Your place or mine?" Cora asked, her face unreadable. "I don't have a place," Boone admitted. "Lost it 3 months ago. Been sleeping in Miller's barn, working for scraps." Cora nodded, unsurprised. "Then it's my house. It's not much, but it's ours now, I suppose." She paused at the door. "There are rules, though. Things you need to understand." Boone followed her to a sturdy wagon. She climbed into the driver's seat with ease, and he noticed a rifle secured beneath the bench. "What rules?" he asked, settling beside her. Cora snapped the reins, and the horses moved. "First, I'm not your cook, cleaner, or servant. Second, my bedroom door stays locked. We're married on paper, and that's where it stays until I say otherwise." The wagon creaked along the rutted road. Boone studied her profile, trying to understand this woman who was now his wife. "What's the third rule?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Don't ask about my first husband. Some stories stay buried." Her small house sat at the edge of town, surrounded by a surprisingly sturdy fence. From the outside, it was unremarkable, weathered wood, tin roof, but inside, it was a revelation. Books lined every wall, leather-bound and well-kept, not the cheap novels most settlers owned. A polished piano gleamed in the corner, reflecting the oil lamps. Cora noticed his stare. Surprised? "I didn't expect this," Boone said, gesturing at the piano. "My first husband believed education was the only wealth that couldn't be stolen." She lit lamps with practiced grace. "Your room's upstairs, second door on the right. There's a washstand and clean linens." Boone's room was sparse but clean, a bed, a dresser, a window overlooking the property. He sat on the mattress, head in hands. This morning, he'd been free. Now, he was married to a stranger with more books than he'd ever seen and a piano she played like a lady from back east. Music drifted up, slow and melancholy. Cora's fingers moved across the keys with confidence. Boone found himself at the top of the stairs, drawn to the haunting melody. The music stopped. "Are you standing there all night, or are you coming down to eat?" Cora called. Embarrassed, Boone descended. She'd set out cold beef, bread, and preserves, pouring coffee that smelled better than anything he'd had in months. "You play beautifully," he said. "I had a good teacher." Her tone shut down further questions. "Who taught you?" he pressed. "Someone dead 5 years." Her fork paused, and Boone saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. Hooves approached, and Cora tensed, peering through the curtains. "Get upstairs," she whispered, grabbing the rifle from under the counter. "Now." Too late. Heavy boots stomped across the porch, and a fist pounded the door. "Cora Maddox, we know you're in there." The voice was rough, Eastern. Cora's face paled, but she checked the rifle's chambers with precision. "There's a back door through the pantry. Take the path to Miller's." "I'm not leaving you," Boone said. "These men aren't here for you. It's from a long time ago." Another knock shook the house. "Please, Boone, go." Her trembling hands and steady voice made him stay. "We're married now. For better or worse." The door burst open. 3 dusty men entered, their leader tall and lean with cold eyes. "There she is, Mrs. Thomas Maddox. Or should I say, Catherine Walsh." Boone froze. Catherine Walsh? That wasn't her name on their certificate. "I don't know what you're talking about," Cora said weakly. The leader smirked. 5 years we've tracked you, Catherine. Since you vanished with something that wasn't yours." He glanced at Boone. "And who's this?" "Your new protector." "Her husband," Boone said, his voice steady. "Did she tell you about Philadelphia? The bank? What she stole?" Cora raised the rifle. "Get out. Our employer wants his property. The money. The documents." Boone's mind reeled. Stolen money? Documents? Who was she? "You've got 10 seconds, Catherine," the leader said, hand on his gun. Cora fired a warning shot into the ceiling, splinters raining down. Then, she lowered the rifle and smiled. "You want to talk about Philadelphia? Let's do it like civilized people." She sat at the table. "Boone, pour them coffee." He stared, incredulous, but her look made him comply. As he poured, Cora faced the leader. "Your employer is Marcus Brennan, isn't he? Still mad about his bank?" The leader's eyes narrowed. "He wants his $50,000. Cora laughed. "He said I stole $50,000. It was Dakota Territory Land Office money he was laundering to steal homestead claims." Boone nearly dropped the pot. $50,000 was a fortune. "You're lying," the leader said, but doubt crept in. "I worked at his bank because my husband, Thomas Maddox, died investigating Brennan's land schemes." Mysteriously. Cora's eyes blazed. I didn't steal. I took evidence of federal crimes, now in a Denver safety deposit box. The leader's men shifted nervously. She pulled a leather journal from a shelf. This was Thomas's. It details Brennan's operation, names, dates, bribes. One man, Jake, read over her shoulder, paling. This has Governor Hartley's signature. There are 40 more entries, Cora said. Brennan's been stealing from settlers. The leader drew his gun. Enough. Hand it over, or we shoot. Hooves thundered outside. Cora's face went ashen. That's Marcus Brennan himself. Brennan entered, average but ruthless, his eyes cold. Catherine, you look well. He nodded to his men. Search the house. Cora lit a match, holding it near the journal. One step, and this burns. Brennan's composure cracked. You wouldn't. This isn't the only copy. One's in Denver. Another's with a federal investigator. She dropped the match. And I told Marshal Bradley if anything happened to us, investigate you. Torches approached, 6 riders, law enforcement. Brennan's men fled. He raised his gun, but Boone stepped in front, taking a bullet to the shoulder. Marshal Bradley burst in, arresting Brennan. 3 months later, Boone's wound had healed. The house was alive with Cora's joyful piano music. Brennan was in prison, the $50,000 restored to build schools. Sterling Rhodes forgave Boone's debts under federal scrutiny. Regrets? Cora asked, smiling. Just one, Boone said, touching her face. I wish I'd known sooner what an extraordinary woman I married. Cora leaned into him. Some stories end better than they begin. Outside, the land stretched toward a hopeful horizon.